Okay, campers. So the last thing that we're going to do this week is we're going to explore fabrics a little bit. And this is sort of just a brief intro. I'm not going into all the details of what you can do with fabrics. It's just more fun to kind of work on your garment if you can play with the fabrics. When you're working in CLO, you notice over here in the property window, we have this fabric one. This is the default fabric that CLO uses if you don't select one. It is analogous to a lightweight cotton canvas. Okay, it behaves. I just moved things around. I didn't mean to. Um, it behaves, this pretty well. It's got a little minor amount of stretch to it, not a whole lot. But it's a pretty sort of generic fabric to work with, okay? Pretty common behavior in a fabric. All right. But let's say for my sweatshirt here, I want this in a jersey. Okay, well, we can go into our library over here. Let's bring that library down where you can see it. There we go. And you remember from our first video, we have a fabric selection. So there's a lot of fabrics in here. A lot of fabrics in here. And you can view them, as pictures, and it sort of shows you a little bit about how they would drape. Some of them would drape easier, some of them would drape harder. So here's like a sew knit piqué. If you know some of these fabrics, you're going to know what these are right away. Here's a waffle knit. Oh, yes. Let's take the waffle knit and put it in our fabric window. If I double click on the fabric, it goes in the fabric window. And so now it's in the fabric window where we can use it on our project. Okay. And it tells me this file has been added to the object browser. Okay, great. Here's a brown one. I'm going to put the brown one in there too, just because it's fun. Okay, works for me. So you can browse through these fabrics. We can also do some things like we can search. So for my sleeves, cuffs and waistband, I'm going to want a rib knit. Rib knit is that sort of up and down straight knitting that is very, very, very stretchy. And it's what you want for a cuff. So I'm going to type in rib just here in the search bar and enter and see what they've got. And there's a teal, there's a double rib in green, there's a nice tan here. Why don't we take the nice tan? Let's take the nice tan. So I'm going to double click on that, and now I have a knit rib in my object browser. Okay, so that's how you get fabrics to jump into your object browser. If you look at the model, you see that they're not being used yet. Okay, but I've put these fabrics in my object browser so I can now use them. How can I use them? A bunch of different ways. One of the ways you can use them is you can click on a pattern piece, and then you can click on the fabric, and it should put that fabric in that pattern piece. Let's try it with the transform pattern tool. There we go. Hi. Why don't I see it? I don't see it. All right, well, let's try the other way. Let's take that knit and let's drop it on the pattern piece. Okay, well, that works better. Okay, the other way should work too, but it's not working for me. All right, so I've got a front that's a blue waffle knit. Let's make the back the blue waffle knit too. You notice you can do each pattern piece in the 2D window can be done separately. So if you want something in 2 colors or 2 different fabrics, you learned from the last video how to cut and sew. Cut and sew. Don't modify the pieces, but put them in different fabrics. And that works. Now, if I zoom in on this model, you'll see that that's a nice rib waffle knit texture, right? That's approximately the texture that waffle knit would be. And if I turn gravity on, you'll see it hangs a little bit differently. It's a little bit drapier than the default fabric. It has a tendency to pool or puddle a little bit more than the default fabric, and that's because it's a knit waffle, right? All right, knit waffle. Let's make my sleeves brown. Why not? Right? There we go. All right, give me some gravity here. Is that transparent? That's got a transparent aspect to it. I didn't realize I picked a semi-transparent fabric. Oh, awesome. Okay, cool. All right. And then the last thing I want to do is I'm going to mess about with my cuffs. I've got that nice rib knit. Let's drop the rib knit on the cuffs. Doop. Doop. And the back cuff. Don't forget the back cuff. There we go. And if we zoom in again, let's get her hand here and zoom right in on that hand. And now you can see you've got a pointel style waffle knit texture for the sleeve. And then you've got that nice rib knitting. You should recognize that from a t-shirt or sweatshirt that you have. So it's giving you the color, and it's giving you the texture, and it's giving you the behavior of that fabric. So if I turn gravity on and I pull on that rib knit, you can see it's very, very stretchy. That'll stretch all kinds of ways, right? It likes to stretch because it's a rib knit. All right. But that's basically how I can choose different fabrics. I have not done anything with the collar. That's because we're not going to end up using that collar, so I'm not really worried about it. But you notice up here now, all of these fabrics are used, okay? And so if I take a look at each one of them, I can see that each one of them is used in this pattern somewhere. If I ever decide, so let's make our sleeves blue. There we go. Make both the sleeves blue. And now I'm not using the brown waffle knit anymore. You see now there's a garbage can next to it. It says you can delete that fabric because we're not actually using that fabric, right? So that's sort of a feature of CLO, is that it will let you know which fabrics you're using. And eventually, when we go to print a pattern to make this garment, CLO will come up with one printed page, a separate printed page for each type of fabric. So here are all the pieces you have to cut out of the blue, and here are all the pieces you have to cut out of the brown, and here are all the pieces you have to cut out of the rib knit, and it will separate those for you automatically. So it's kind of nice to do. I will mention one small detail. Let's say that you choose, let's go back to the main fabric list here. Give me all the fabrics. Vegan fur. Sure, why not? Let's put some black vegan fur in here. All right, let's say I want to make this furry. Okay. Furry is cool. Furry is really cool. And we go in, we can zoom, we can see, it's kind of fuzzy. Fur doesn't show up really, really well until we render, but it is there. But what I want you to notice is that it becomes very difficult to see certain pattern lines on the fur. So you'll be looking for pattern lines in here, and they'll be very, very hard to see if you are choosing a black fabric. Black fabrics are cool. Absolutely. Use them. Have a ball. But just know if you're going to work with a black fabric, you probably want to work with something lighter until you get the garment pretty much the way you want it to, and then turn to the black fabric. All right. But otherwise, have at it. You can choose from any fabric that is in the library, and there are many, many, many of them in there. So have a ball.